The civil rights movement of the 1960s, it was the Young Lords whose legacy for social change in predominantly Puerto Rican and underserved communities throughout New York City is still being felt today.
It was one of the most active and successful organizations of the 1960s. The Young Lords considered themselves revolutionaries. They believed in the independence of Puerto Rico, which they believed would only come about through revolution, but they also considered themselves socialists. And they fought racism and police violence and brutality in poor neighborhoods of East Harlem, the South Bronx, and the Lower East Side.
The Young Lords were a group of first-generation Puerto Rican college students who took their cues from Marxism philosophy and the civil rights movement. They embraced other young minorities into their organization.
They engaged in protests that were savvy, strategic, that involved the community. They occupied Lincoln Hospital right here in the Bronx. They engaged in protests around issues of public health. They burned garbage in East Harlem to protest poor sanitation services there. And they won tremendous reforms.
All of this history has been dramatically documented in Presente, the Young Lords in New York exhibits at the Bronx Museum of Art, El Museo del Barrio, and the Loisaida Ink Center. Each cultural site tells a story of the Young Lords in that part of the city with striking photos, video, art, and other archival materials.
What the museum has done here is amazing. It's important that this be gathered, that this not be lost, that what we did was not in vain. I mean, I know that we made an impact at that time, but very rarely are we credited for what we did.
One of their biggest impacts was when they took over an East Harlem church, which wasn't providing any services to the community. The Young Lords renamed it the People's Church.
For the 11 days that we had the church, we had a breakfast program, we had free medical clinic for the community, we had cultural events. It was the first place that Bethel Bethany read Puerto Rican obituary publicly. So we kind of demonstrated what we could do with space and very little money, but resources from the community.
The exhibition shows how the Young Lords organized as a paramilitary party and dressed the part too.
We were at war with the U.S. government, and you brought it down, and we were, at war with the city government. With all our bravado, being 18 and 22 years old, we thought that we were going to change things overnight, and that was the way to do it.
The Young Lords developed a 13-point platform to publicize what they stood for and created a very popular newspaper called Palante, which promoted their agenda to the community and beyond.
We didn't have the internet, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have YouTube videos. So how do you take the information you've got and how do you get it out to people in the community other than by word of mouth? You need a vehicle, and that vehicle was a newspaper. Anybody that had a skill became part of the staff of Palante. A lot of the community wasn't necessarily totally literate. So we tried to use art to communicate the politics that we were working with in the community at the time.
Denise was the highest ranking woman at the time, but like many women who were active in the Young Lords, she felt frustrated by the sexism within it.
That machismo should be revolutionary and not oppressive.
Exactly.
And, well, that's an oxymoron. There is no way that machismo can ever be revolutionary. It's like saying revolutionary racism or, revolutionary xenophobia.
The women made demands and they were met. They were elevated to leadership positions and the platform was revised.
We want equality for women, down with machismo and male chauvinism.
We wanted to deal with all the isms, the sexism, the racism that we grow up with in this society. And that, along with all the other ones, was not an easy one, because where we come from and, the patriarchal families that we all grow up in.
The Young Lords also inspires a generation of artists who have been active in the 60s. But all of a sudden, the fact that Puerto Ricans are being discussed in the mainstream media gives them confidence to form their organizations and their collectives.
Increased Latino pride stimulated a renaissance in Latino music and art. Presente, the Young Lords in New York, shows the enormous amount which the Young Lords accomplished. But unfortunately, the party started to come apart, and by 1976, they were defunct, but not their impact on the city.
This is a little clip for my Boricuas to know that the Young Lords fought very hard for us. A lot of them got killed, and a lot of them went through a lot of police brutality. So the Young Lords fought very hard for the Boricuas. Don't let nobody go running around acting like they did things for you, because Boricuas died even before World War I. They weren't ready in wars. And they won World War I, World War II, every war ever since. And they fought for us, the Young Lords. So always remember that, Boricua. Our people stand up. They don't sit down and hold their hands folded watching others. We've been standing up. Just go see what happened in the Capitol and what happened in Puerto Rico. We've been standing up. So don't let anybody act, and this is mainly for Tyreek, that he loves to think that he and his group did everything for people. No. I respect what the African Americans have done, and shout out and mad love and respect, but big shout out to the Young Lords and my Boricuas that were doing a lot of things through the minute they came to New York City. So